Hi everybody, and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. Today we're going to be talking all about what's called the cash envelope system. So chances are, if you follow other budgeting people like myself, you've probably seen tons of pictures of beautiful, super cutesy little envelopes that are filled with cash. That's because a ton of people in the personal finance space who have tried different budgeting methods love doing what's called the cash envelope system. So what is the cash envelope system? Why is it so popular? And is it a good idea for you to try and do it? Let's talk about all the ins and outs of this system. So let's start with the basics. I'll just go over what a cash envelope system is. Number one thing you need to know is that you should already be budgeting before you try to start the cash envelope system. Otherwise, it most likely will not work for you. Once you have your budget and you know how much money you have allotted to spend on those variable expenses, what you do is you withdraw all that money in cash and separate it and put it into different envelopes for the different things you need to pay for. For example, if I were to use the cash envelope system, I would have a different envelope for gas money, for groceries, for miscellaneous expenses, for eating out. And some people also keep envelopes for their fixed expenses, such as bills and rent and all that good stuff. I don't think it's totally necessary to do all of your expenses this way because obviously some of our expenses are taken directly out of our bank account. So those are not things we need to also be taking the cash out to then pay it. So the idea is that because you're confined to a specific amount of money in each category, it's really helpful because a lot of people, when they don't use this system, have a tendency to go over budget in certain categories or pull from their savings in order to cover what they're going over budget for, or they're just not able to save at all because whatever money they see in their account is the money that they feel like they have to spend on whatever the heck they want instead of the money that they want to save. So the cash envelope system can be a huge game changer for people with this bad habit. And finally, there are studies that demonstrate that when you pay for things with cash, it's actually a lot more difficult and there's more kind of friction and resistance to that purchase versus just swiping a card. Something about the physicality of holding the money and giving it away feels a lot more emotionally significant than just kind of swiping a card with a bunch of invisible money in it. So let's talk about who this system really works for and who it probably isn't for. The cash envelope system might be a good idea for you if you already have a budget. This is very important because otherwise it's kind of just a crapshoot. Your first budget on the cash envelope system is going to be really messy just because you really don't know how much money actually has to be in what categories. So I would only really suggest this for people who already have a budget. It also might be a good idea for you if you're somebody who consistently goes over budget in certain categories. So if you're constantly going over budget and you end up having to use money that you wanted to save in order to spend on other things, and it's a really big problem for you, maybe the cash envelope system is a good thing for you to try. Also a good idea if you aren't able to save as much as you would like due to overspending. So if you do not have any plan for savings and you end up just spending all the money that you have in a month, then it's a great idea to really pull out that money, have it physically there, and put that habit in perspective. It's also a great idea for you if you constantly have overdraft fees. So if you are paying tons of overdraft fees, you are losing so much money simply by really just not being organized and not having a plan that you're sticking to with your money. So having this physical organization reminder for your money can be so helpful and actually save you on a bunch of those overdraft fees. So if any of those things sounded like you, maybe it's time to give the cash envelope system a shot. Now, let's talk about who the cash envelope system is not for, because sometimes it's heralded as like the best budgeting method, but I really don't think that it is the best method for everybody. So for starters, it's not for you if you don't have a budget yet. Chances are you're going to end up being just as disorganized and just as confused with the cash envelope system as you would otherwise if you don't already know how much you spend each month. It's not for you if you're already having success with your current budgeting method. So if you're doing great, maybe you're pulling a little bit from what you designated for savings because you went over budget in one thing, but it's no more than like $10 or $20 and it really just isn't that big of a deal. I wouldn't worry about this at all. If you are solid with your budgeting method, stick to what you're doing. No reason to try something new. Don't fix it if it isn't broken. The cash envelope system is definitely not for you if you are uncomfortable keeping a lot of physical cash in your house and on your person. So the thing about the cash envelope system is when you go to the grocery store, you bring that $200 that you have designated for groceries or however much it is with you in the envelope. That is something that makes me personally feel very uncomfortable, and if that's you too, then I wouldn't even mess with this because I don't know that the anxiety is worth it. And finally, it's not for you if you're benefiting from credit card rewards or if you are trying to build your credit score. You could theoretically do the cash envelope system and then just make certain purchases on your credit card, such as like buying gas or things like that. But I feel like it kind of messes with the system if you're using a credit card as well as your cash envelopes. So I want everyone to note and keep in mind that while I'm making this video and while I think that this is a really good system for a lot of people, I have personally never once tried the cash envelope system. And for me, it's all the reasons that I said before. I don't like keeping a bunch of cash. It makes me feel very nervous. And the other reason is mainly just that I like my current budgeting method. I like using my spreadsheet. And while I do definitely go over budget in certain categories sometimes, and sometimes I do have to take that money from savings, ultimately it hasn't been enough of a problem where it's taken away from my long-term goals in any sort of significant way. I also have my fully funded emergency fund, and haven't been paying any of those nasty overdraft fees from disorganization or from lack of income. I think that what's important about this system is that it's so great for people who just need that physical reminder, but for everybody else, it's not necessarily the best way to do things. So consider the points I made in this video, and if I described you when I was talking about who this system would be good for, then maybe you should give it a shot. But again, please, please, please start by making your budget. And if you haven't gotten started with that yet, please go to the links in the description of this video. I'm going to link in my budgeting basics video, in addition to my personalized budgeting templates, which is one spreadsheet version of the template, which is the kind I prefer. I think it's really comprehensive and great that it does the math for you, and also a pen and paper template for those of you who prefer the physical pen and paper. Thank you guys so much as always for joining me here every week. Please make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the content of this video, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more teacher money content. Bye!